welcome in to another episode of College Hockey Southwest Weekly. You can see my partner, Tom Callahan, has joined us here at beautiful Oceanside Ice Arena. Tom's got the jacket on. I don't. It's a little cool inside the building today, but Tom, welcome back in.
Okay, small secret. I have a bad back and have for years, so if I keep my back warm, it keeps it loose, and so that's my excuse for wearing the jacket. I'm from Buffalo. I'm not supposed to be cold. So thanks, Scott. It's good to be here coming off a great weekend series against Ohio State. Awful lot of fun to watch both those games, and I know you don't come out with a win against Ohio State, but boy, oh boy, the ASU team showed me something this weekend.
You know, it's a lot of fun. They're now 2-2 on the year. They're going to be heading down to Alabama, of all places, Huntsville, Alabama, to take on the Chargers, who are currently 0-4. So it's going to be a big weekend for both clubs. The Chargers want to get on the winning side of things, and the Sun Devils want to show that they are for real.
Well, yeah, Huntsville hasn't scored since the first game of the year. They've got one goal in those 4 losses, and the closest they were, they actually held Colorado College to a 1-0 loss, but that's the closest they've been. In a way, almost, to go back to the Ohio State series, if you're Ohio State, the Buckeyes didn't want to look past the Sun Devils. Well, the Sun Devils can't look past the Chargers. You're going into Alabama, Huntsville. Yeah, they're off to a bad start. They're not doing all that well. Their offense is just not there right now. But you can't say, all right, we're going to go in, get our 2 wins, our groceries, and go home. They've got to focus on that and winning these games.
Well, by the looks of things on the ice today, Coach Powers has them rubbed up as usual on Tuesdays. Tuesdays are a big workload day, and the guys are working hard on the ice right now and getting prepared. And knock on wood, but the most important thing right now is I don't see any injuries.
Well, and it's early yet, and I'll go ahead and knock on some wood here on the bench because heaven forbid. But you know what? That's key to a lot of teams. A lot of teams that are left standing at the end of the year, they don't have major injuries to their big stud guys, and that's going to be something that most of it is luck and timing. But if it works out that way for the Sun Devils, great. And the other thing too with this team, speaking of time, is just going to be getting those freshmen more time as those guys play more games, they practice more with this team, they kind of get involved a little bit more. Scott, they're going to get better.
And a road trip is always great to bring a team together, especially early in the season. So I don't think there's anything wrong with this trip. I think it's something that they can go down and prove themselves. I think they can come together as a team and then come back the following weekend to get the University of Nebraska Omaha.
Well, I like that they have something to build off of coming off this Buckeyes series. Now you do go on the road, you get away from the distractions a little bit, you're focused for the weekend on those 2 games. And again, you don't want to look ahead to Nebraska, because if you do, you start looking at UNO, then all of a sudden Alabama Huntsville comes up and surprises you. So as long as they stay focused on this weekend, but we talk about it all the time, the Sun Devil team has probably the toughest schedule in all of college hockey. It's for sure not going to get easy on them, but because of that, I think, trial by fire, and they will probably come out of this season a better team, speaking of looking ahead, than anybody could have imagined.
Well, Tom, we're going to come back. We'll do another segment and review the weekend. I've got a little segment we taped on Saturday night from the press box here, which is going to be a lot of fun. We've got your old partner, Tim Gasson, in with you to talk a little bit about that series, and then we'll jump into a full-fledged another edition of College Hockey Southwest Weekly. All right, welcome in to the second episode of College Hockey Southwest Weekly. As you can see, my co-host Tom Callahan is with us, and the AZ puck man, Tim Gasson, joins us as well. Series guys here at Oceanside Ice Arena. Tell us a little bit about the series, what you guys thought.
Well, the first thing, Tom, that I was impressed with was the intensity of the Sun Devil squad. It's just their 4th year as a Division I team in the NCAA. They were playing the number 1 ranked team in the Ohio State Buckeyes, and while they didn't win either game, they had great intensity, sustained intensity for both games, and I think that's what I bring away from this series.
I think they also, Tim, had good discipline. They stuck to their system quite a bit, which was good to see, and really what they needed to do to try to beat Ohio State, and I think they did a great job of that, and they showed discipline to stay within that. I thought their penalty kill was exceptional here Saturday night. Boy, that kept them in the game, especially in that 3rd period. But they said it in the post-game press conference, and I don't know that you could put any finer point on it. They just didn't cash in those chances that they had, and there were a couple. One was a wide open net, but a diving defenseman makes a block in the 2nd, and then in the 3rd period, you whiff on a wide open net. So that happens. And they were that close to being in this hockey game and making it a different contest. But you know what? I think it was a great weekend series for Arizona State hockey.
This was a great early regular season hockey series. Very competitive. Ohio State is as described. They're going to be a very dangerous team, not only in the Big Ten, but as a contender for the national championship. For ASU, Tom, I was really impressed with Johnny Walker. You know, another year under his belt. He's going to develop into, I think, an all-star kind of a player for Arizona State, a legitimate threat for Arizona State.
His motor's always going. And I mean, a guy with a high motor like that is a guy who, if you can get that engine going in the right direction, is a tremendous asset for your hockey team. And I think he can definitely be that guy for Arizona State. And you know what? There's some other guys out there. And Tim, there's a lot of freshmen and sophomores out there on the ice for this team. And so if you get somebody who's leading by example with their energy, is that kind of player, you know, other guys fall in line, especially, you know, kids at the college level. I think that's great for ASU. And you're right. I mean, he has a chance to be a big-time impact player for these guys.
Well, the other Sun Devil that really stood out for me was goaltender Joey Decord. Now, he was great in goal for the Sun Devils last year, but he seems to be a more mature goaltender, at least in this series that we saw against Ohio State. He will give the Sun Devils a chance to win every night. Now, if they can get some timely goals, play the kind of disciplined defense that they played in this series, even though they have such a difficult schedule, I think, Tom, the Sun Devils are going to surprise a lot of teams this year and actually come away with some victories.
I think they will too, and they're only going to get better as the season goes along. Decord is obviously a big piece to that puzzle. He's a very solid goaltender positionally. Doesn't overplay the puck, and I really like that about him. And for a guy who handles the puck as much as he does.
He's very confident too.
Yeah, he's very confident, but he's calm at the same time, and I think that demeanor is going to help him out there a lot. And you know what? He is the rock upon which they will build this season, and he's been outstanding so far.
Well, you can tell the boys love to play in front of him. He just seems to settle everything down, and he kept Arizona State in both of these games. They didn't come away with the victories, but I think we saw the ASU program move forward this weekend.
I would agree, absolutely, especially against the number one ranked team like Ohio State to pick up, you know, a couple of goals on Friday night. Yeah, they got shut out tonight, but again, the chances were there. Yeah. They know they didn't cash in on them. That's hockey. You know, they're generating the chances. You keep generating the chances, pucks will go in the net, and they're going to win some games.
Well, a $1 million question for both of you guys is they came in as a number one ranked team against a team that was ranked maybe somewhere in the range of 50 and 60 in NCAA hockey. So where does ASU fall now? Do they get votes in the poll? Do they sneak into the poll? Where are they at in your estimation as far as the national ranking?
I don't think they sneak into the poll yet. They have to win a few of these games against ranked opponents to sneak into the poll. But if you actually watch these games this weekend, you can't help but see that I would have thought they were a ranked team playing Ohio State in these two games. So they got to win a couple games against some ranked teams to get into that poll. But I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona sneaks into that top 25 poll this season.
You know what? The old school image of the radar, the circle going around on the green screen, I think for the first time this season and maybe ever, a little pitchfork showed out on the periphery of that radar. I think for the first time, it's right there on the outside of the ring. No, they're not getting in the poll yet, I don't think, but they will be entering the conversation soon.
And the best quote from Coach Powers was, "We know where we're going." Right. And I think that's the theme for this year. I think ASU knows where they're going as a program. And even though they lost these two games against number one Ohio State, I think they took a step towards where they're going.
They did. And you know what? They have a vision, and they're together on it. That's the important part. They are going in that direction as a team. And I think, you know what? Again, by the end of the season, yeah, they're joining the conversation of the possibility. Will they be ranked? I can't guarantee that, but I think they'll at least be talked about.
So we're talking about the vision and where they're headed. We know where they're headed next weekend. It's down to Alabama Huntsville. They have a score to settle. I think they felt that they could sweep them last season. They didn't. They split with them. So thoughts on Alabama Huntsville and what they're going to bring to the table against a Sun Devil team that's obviously unhappy right now?
I don't care who their next opponent is. I would not want to be the next opponent playing this Sun Devil squad. I think this team is angry in the right way.
Yeah.
They're angry because they had opportunities. They don't think they cashed in on those opportunities, and they know that they can win more games. So I wouldn't want to be the Ohio State Buckeyes playing them next weekend, let alone Alabama, Huntsville, or any of the other ranked teams as they go forward. They just got to win win one or two of those games to get that kind of confidence to get this ball rolling?
I feel like they can go in and win two on the road at Alabama Huntsville, and this is a team I think that does have that confidence up, and they have that drive up. And you know what? The guys said it themselves. They're pissed off that they didn't win, that they didn't execute on those chances. Tim, I think you're right. I would not want to be the next opponent for the Sun Devils. So I'll tell you what, I'm going into next weekend. They got a great chance coming out 4-2.
Guys, I appreciate your time for coming into the beautiful Oceanside Ice Arena and had a chance to see some great hockey. And it's going to continue all season long here on College Hockey Southwest Weekly.
Thank you for having us.
Welcome into episode number 2 of College Hockey Southwest Weekly. It's a big game here in Tempe at the Oceanside Ice Arena. We've got the number 1 team ranked in the country, Ohio State Buckeyes, in town, and head coach Steve Rawlik is with me. And Coach, welcome in. First of all, welcome to the Desert Southwest.
Yeah, thanks, appreciate it. It's nice to be here.
So you make the trip across the country, you get a chance to open your season here in beautiful Tempe, Arizona. So what's your thoughts, first of all, on Oceanside Ice Arena, and second of all, on opening your season here?
Well, I guess first and foremost, it's for us, it's nice to just get going. We've been practicing against each other here for a little while, so and to come back out here, we had a chance to play Arizona a couple years ago, so it's nice to come back out and again see a program grow like these guys are and how competitive they are, and for us to come play in their barn here, it kind of brings you back. So old school hockey, and at the end of the day, the puck drops and the ice is the ice. So we're looking forward to it. We got to play our best hockey tonight to have a chance.
Your team on paper looks really good, and everybody says that at the beginning of the year, I guess, but returning guys is always nice. Having a strong goaltender is always nice. So tell me a little bit about your roster and what you've seen so far in the preseason, if you will.
Well, again, we have a few older guys coming back, and we got some guys that have played some games for us, so that's nice. The culture's there, and we're led by our seniors and our captains, Mason Yobst and Sasha Larocque, and obviously our goaltender, Sean Romeo. So, you know what, last year. This is a different team, and again, a different feel, and I don't know until the puck drops, and the nice part for ASU's, they got 2 games under their belt, and for me, it's going to be interesting to see how we do for the first 5 minutes, first 10 minutes of this game.
It's no secret you guys have had a chance to get to some Frozen Fours, and I'm obviously going to guess that that's been a very building part of your program. It's an opportunity for you to get some experience, and I'm sure there's nothing too big for your team at this moment, but how does that play into starting a new season?
Well, again, last year was last year. We certainly, we certainly had a great ride. It was great for our program. It's great for the guys coming back, but again, we talked about it already a lot. This is a different year. We got to prove ourselves every day we step on the ice. Monday through Thursday is really when we win hockey games. It's how we practice, how we show up, and again, I said this earlier, it's going to be interesting to see how we show up and how our continuity is with our lines, and that might be take us a little while, but I'm just interested and anxious to get going.
It's always the way at the start of the season. You've had a few seasons before. You've seen some stuff. You spent a few years at my alma mater at Minnesota Duluth, and I know you've been around this league a little bit, but how does the college hockey ranks, specifically the NCAA ranks, stack up for you now?
The parity right now in college hockey is off the charts. Any one of the 60 Division I teams can win in any given night. We know that. I think that's what's driving our game right now, and you see that every weekend. So to me, it's bringing the best out of coaches, bringing the best out of players, because they know if you don't play your best on Friday night, you're going to get beat, and that's kind of the way we approach things. We approach things one day at a time, Monday through Thursday, and try to be our best on Friday.
So you guys playing the Big Ten, obviously, you've got a chance to play Penn State, and I know ASU is kind of patterning their program after Penn State, taking the leap from ACH AD1 to NCAA. And do you see similarities in these two teams, Penn State and ASU? Obviously, Penn State had them a few years, but...
Yeah, they both had a tremendous amount of success in the club level, and Penn State was able to get the brand new building right away, and they're just off and running. And I think Coach Powers has done a tremendous job here in his first 3 years of what he's done, where this program's going. the type of players he's bringing in, the compete they bring every night, and they've played with every team in the country. They got a great schedule this year again. So he's doing it the right way, and it's they're here. They're here, they're for real, and every team knows that.
Coach, I appreciate your time. Good luck this weekend, and good luck the rest of the way, okay?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
All right, welcome in. We're back. We had a little review with the previous series with Arizona State and Ohio State. We were hoping for a guest, as happens on live recordings sometimes. We lose our guest.
Yep, it happens.
So the boys are more concerned with getting to Huntsville, Alabama than they are talking to us this week. But let's talk a little bit about pairwise. Tom, let's talk a little bit about the pairwise rankings, and specifically, you and I talked briefly off camera about the importance of rankings. They really mean nothing this point of the year, but
Right.
they're fun to talk about, right?
Well, sure, they are, especially because Ohio State is now behind Arizona
Right.
State, so that's kind of neat to see. But in pairwise, ASU sitting at number 9. Even though they dropped both games to Ohio State this weekend, again, I mean, they were not only competitive, but they were right there with them. I think they gave them everything they could handle, and so seeing them at number 9 right now at 2-2, heading to Huntsville, they do have to take care of business in Huntsville. But I'll tell you what, Scott, at least as far as pairwise goes, it's nice to see the Sun Devils getting recognition.
Absolutely, and when we talk about the pairwise and the other rankings, most of the other rankings are a vote, right? They're
Right.
either a coach or media or somebody voting. The pairwise is actually designed to be in a computer program, which takes a lot of variables into consideration. And I think, early in the year it's hard to really tell, but as the season goes on, that becomes more and more effective tool towards selecting which teams are the best in the country.
Well, if you're a college football fan, you're familiar with strength of schedule
Yes.
as a factor, because that is a big factor for a lot of teams, especially as the year goes on. Just because a 9 plays a 5 early in the season, by the end of the year, if the 9 falls apart, they're like, well, that doesn't weigh as much anymore. It's like, well, they were number 9 at the time, but so that is something for college hockey too. I think that there are teams that are, powerhouse teams that may fall off later. Should the rankings be weighted a little bit more by that? Possibly. But then again, if you run into a buzzsaw
Right.
and somebody pulls the upset on you and they're unranked, I mean, that can hurt you quite a bit. But as far as strength of schedule goes, and the quality of the opponents, again, we talk about all the time, but I don't know that there's a team in the nation that has a tougher schedule than these guys.
And one of the things with Arizona State, logistically where they're located, so far west, that
Yeah.
they really, unless they travel east or somebody pays attention to them, like Ohio State coming out here, they don't really get the recognition, I don't think, that other schools would get, that you would see on a daily basis or weekly basis.
Well, and I think that's part of why you have to play the big name teams. You have to try to get in front of the bigger audiences to get recognition for the program. Look, this is a really good hockey team. There's a lot of talent here playing in Tempe, but as you say, I mean, it's college hockey and hockey in general is so entrenched in the Northeast, in Minnesota, New England, New York, Pennsylvania, all that area. It's just Michigan and Minnesota. That's where the game has deep roots. Doesn't make it any less competitive, less fun, or any less of a team just because it's in Arizona. But from the media standpoint, it's just not the big, sexy, old school name, if you will.
Well, right now, Arizona State's number 9 in the pairwise, and Alabama Huntsville is number 33. We'll see what happens when they get together on the ice down in Huntsville. You're familiar with that area, being
Yep.
in Nashville for a little while. So what do you think the guys are going to get headed down that way now? They got a team that's 0-4 that hasn't scored but 1 goal all season. What's your gut thought on what's it going to be like for the team down there?
We've heard from everybody on the Sun Devils team that they were angry after
Right.
losing to Ohio State. Imagine how the Chargers feel starting the year 0-4. They've scored once, and they scored that goal early in the first game of the season, haven't scored since. So that's going to be a frustrated hockey team. They're a team that's going to come out with something to prove. I expect that first period that they play at Alabama Huntsville is going to be a tough one, and they're going to have their hands full against these guys. ASU, if they take them too lightly, could come out and fall behind early. Now, if you get out there and you're ready to go from the get-go, and that's part of coach's job, is to make sure the guys are ready to go. But if you get out there, get on top of things right away, I think you can knock a team's confidence down quickly that has struggled the way they have at the beginning of the year, and that's exactly what they need to do.
Well, as we wrap up this episode, Tom, let's talk a little bit about Coach. He was supposed to be in with us today, normally for his 5-minute powers play as well. However, compliance meetings take precedence in this game. It's the NCAA after all, right? We got to stay on the up and up. So we're miscoached this week, but we'll get them again next week. And then also, let's end this thing by talking about the Desert Southwest. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but Johnny Walker is tied for the lead in NCAA goals with 4. And Austin Matthews, I believe, has the lead in the NHL.
He does.
In goals. And both of them played right here at Oceanside Ice Arena.
So, which is great for the state of Arizona, and youth hockey is growing all the time, and they're producing. They used to call them non-traditional markets. I don't think you can call anywhere a non-traditional market anymore. Every place where a hockey team can play is a hockey market, and it's great to see. I mean, Matthews is off to a great start, 7 straight multi-point games,
right.
And hey, that's homegrown talent right here in the state of Arizona. So that's tremendous.
Well, I went on a limb earlier in the year, and I said that Johnny Walker was going to be a 30-goal scorer this year, and everybody said, ooh, that's a big number. And I said, okay, well, let's start counting games. We played 4 games. He's got 4 goals. There's 38 games on the schedule. Can he keep this pace up? I don't know, but he's done it against Ohio State. He's done it against Alaska Fairbanks. Who's to say that this kid can't keep scoring?
Yeah, I mean, you go down to Huntsville, you get a couple of goals on the weekend, and your confidence grows. As a hockey player, confidence can be fickle, but if you're putting the puck in the net, maybe the net looks 30 feet wide to you and 20 feet high, and you just feel like, boy, no matter where I shoot, I'm going to put the puck in the net, and that's a great thing to have. And if you're scoring early, it's easier to carry that over.
And I lied to you. We're going to wrap things up. I want to get your feeling on this. But what we've seen in college hockey is a lot of these college kids that are either free agents to be or draft picks get a chance in the summertime to go to a development camp. You've been around development camps before. You know all about that. How big of an impact does that make on their college season, especially that very next season?
It has a big impact because you go in and you're working with NHL trainers, NHL skating coaches, NHL coaching staffs, guys who are telling you, hey, this is the way, who do it every single day. This is the way we do it in the NHL. This is what we're doing, how we're doing it, and they can learn from that and carry that over into their training programs, into their health and nutrition, into everything that affects their daily life in hockey. I mean, Scott, there is no off season anymore.
Right.
There used to be back in the day, guys that play their way into shape in training camp. Even college kids can't do that anymore. Everybody's in the gym, 365, and because you have to do it because everyone else does it. And so the kids that have the leg up, that go to the camps, that come back and say, hey, I learned this, or I added this to my diet or my workout regimen or whatever it is, they're getting probably the best advice they can.
And Johnny Walker was a recipient of going to the Columbus Blue Jackets camp this year. And matter of fact, when we saw Ohio State play, there were 3 kids that were at that camp, 2 for Ohio State, 1 for ASU. And it gives those guys the opportunity to make some friendships, but more importantly, hone their skills. And I think that's what Johnny's going through right now, is he's played at that higher level for albeit a couple of weeks, but now he comes back here, and I think the game's a little bit slower for him.
Yeah, that does happen. I've seen that happen with guys. And the other thing, too, is now you have a better sense of what it takes to elevate your game.
Right.
Okay, so if this is where I want to get to, this is what I have to do. And so if a player has his heart set on trying to make it or in just trying to better themselves, now they have a much better idea how to do it.
Well, we're going to wrap up this episode. I'm going to throw out a little sneak preview. We're going to experiment with a long-distance Devils feature next week.
Okay.
We've got a longtime ASU alum from out in New York that follows college hockey closely. He's going to give us some insight next week via Skype. So we're going to see what happens. But Tom, thanks again for sitting in. Thanks again for coming up on the weekend and having a chance to see Ohio State. And we'll see the Devils can get things done down in Huntsville.
Yep, absolutely. If they can get those 2 wins, Scott, that's going to be huge for them. And I look forward to seeing the games this weekend. Thanks for having me.
It's going to be exciting. And after that, of course, folks, they're back here at Oceanside for University of Nebraska Omaha, and we won't want to miss that one.
No, that'll be a good one as well. So looking forward to it. And again, thanks for having me on.